Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivorganics, where we grow cool plants, and today we're going to be talking about focusing predominantly on Chimera, also known as sport wood. And in the fruit world, a lot of the best fruits have been created through a process known as sport wood as well as Chimera, and I'm going to share those definitions with you shortly, as I think we have an example here to share with you on our now 7-in-1 fig tree. That's one tree trunk supporting 7 flavors of different kinds of figs. We've been doing this over the last couple of years. Let me share with you the latest and greatest. We're also going to do a taste test. I've lined up over here a few projects, and this is going to be a pretty fast video, but we're going to be talking about the 3-in-1 whitewash products. We're going to talk about the Ivorganics fertilizer products, and I even brought a plate here where we're going to do some sampling. And for those of you that love slime, this is relevant to Chimera, and we're going to do that together. So stay tuned and let's get started. So before we begin, let me first share with you the 7 flavors of figs that we have growing onto this one rootstock. Let's start off with the Tiger, also known as the celestial fig, which is for me one of the most unique, most special of all the varieties of figs, as it has these variegated stripe-like pattern on the fig. Check this out over here. If you take a look at these figs, you can see that they're predominantly like yellowish in color, but take a look at these stripes. They're basically yellow figs with green stripes that go throughout it. If you come in over here, you can see some much larger ones, and it's virtually every single leaf supporting another large fig. And then if we come back here, these are the Cadota, a green variety of fig. And if we come through a little bit further, so again, this here is all part of the Cadota graft. Back here is the brown turkey variety of fig, and we have one that is just about ripe over here, so if I can get you to come around. And then this here is the brown turkey. It'll eventually turn more purplish and brown, hence the name brown turkey. And I have an example I'll share with you in a taste test I did just a couple of days ago. And then right up in here is the celestial fig. There might be a large leaf blocking, but you can see we're going to be picking this fig today. It might be better tomorrow, but it's a purplish fig, very sweet, and it has the most droopy characteristic of all figs. If I can get you to zoom in, I'll have you check out how unique these little fruits look compared to the other ones on the tree. And then in this area over here, we've got 3 more varieties of figs. This one over here is the black Chicago Hardy. On this side is the green Isha variety of fig, grafted at this point. And then we just added this year 2 more grafts of the strawberry Varieties fig. One graft over here, another graft over here, and all this whiteness that you see on here, let's just quickly talk about it, is the Ivorganics 3-in-1 plant guard. If I share with you down below here, we basically use this product over here to protect the graft from predominantly insects, but the product offers protection from summer sunburn, as well as offering insulation during the winter from winter sun scald, insect protection, and rodent protection. And the way it does that is it's got these 7 natural oils, which include castor and cinnamon, cloves, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. And when mixed, when you open the can, it basically comes with this organic base powder as well as a bubble wrapped oil vial. And if we open this up, this oil vial has those 7 natural oils that offers the protection against insects as well as rodents. Today, I'm going to be using color green, and the directions recommend that every 5 to 10 minutes to make sure you mix it. This one here we've added water to, and also depending on how much water you add to the product, it can be used as a brush on by filling up the can, as a foliar spray by diluting it. Basically, it's one of these cans to 5 gallons of foliar sprayer. So I can also use 1/5 of this can, or 1/5 of this bag to a gallon, or I can even take about 1/4 of a teaspoon or 1/3 of a teaspoon of this powder to a spray bottle as well to create a foliar spray as well. And then the last way is as a tree paste over here. I can add a 1/4 cup of water or 2 ounces of water, and I'll have about 1/3 or 1/4 of a can of tree paste, something a lot more gummy. And my goal being that I just shared with you this area, one of the lessons I want to share with you, and the reason that these grafts that I also did at the same time as all of these fruiting varieties that are not producing, is because I've had to cut it back to prevent my newest grafts from being compromised. And it's a phenomenon in grafting that I call is balancing the strengths. We're balancing the strengths being these that are more mature grafts, and even some varieties of grafts are more vigorous than others. Balancing the strengths means to basically balance the energy between each of the branches. If I allowed this branch to grow as large as these branches behind it, then it would basically smother our young and tender recent graft. So I've had to prune this back to give recognition and basically encourage the life-supporting waters and sugars and nutrients to basically come and support our newest graft. And it'll be next year that we'll expect the vigor to come in through these, basically all of these grafts, and create fruits on all 3 of these varieties, adding to the other 4 that we just shared. But what I'm going to do now with the product is, you'll notice that as I've been pruning these back, these are all exposed entryways, and the pith of the fig is very soft and tender. And to avoid any colonization of insects within it, if I can give you an example, if you come through over here, this here is our celestial variety of fig that we grafted. You can see over here was the approach graft plant. And we basically, for those of you that haven't seen the prior videos, let me just share quickly how we kind of did this. But this is kind of how we did it. We started off with a cutting from another variety of fig, and we simply approach grafted it like so. You can see that this branch over here was once connected to its own root, and we basically allowed it to heal over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, and then we severed this root stock, which would be this variety of fig, off of it until it finally healed onto the root stock over here. We then prune the root stock, and then the scion wood basically is now resting as an approach graft on top of this root stock. But if you take a look at this pith over here, you'll see that it continuously collapses. Using the product as a tree paste would better plug this hole, which would be a perfect entryway for pests to get in there and begin hollowing out that wood. You can see we've used color white in the past. I've got color green ready, so I'm just going to be using green today. And I'm also going to be hosting a garden club for some of my neighbors in a couple of weeks, so it'll be interesting to share with them how we've got now color green and white and brown in just such a small area of the plant, to kind of just show the differences in the colors, but not necessarily in the effectiveness. And what I'm also doing is I'm also protecting the graft union, as that needs to create a nice layer of bark to best protect the underlying cambium tissues between the 2 plants that have now since united. And I'm getting my brush even right under that grafted area. And that pretty much concludes our lesson on the 3-in-1 plant guard. So the 3-in-1 plant guard, again, you'll notice the yellow cans have the oils within them. Some of you may also question, what are the blue cans? And the blue cans are basically oil free. It's offering all that protection from the sun. Specifically, if you take a look here, it says summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but it doesn't have the oil, so it's not offering the protection. I brought here with me a brochure. It's not offering the protection that the 3-in-1 would offer, the 3 being protection from the sun, protection from insects, protection from rodents. What the whitewash formula is specifically doing is offering all of these sunblock protection, being summer sunburn, winter sun scald, premature blooms. By basically coating the trees, you're basically allowing them to stay cooler in the late winter, and when you get those false warm days, it doesn't create premature blooms, and instead keeps the plant insulated until it's truly warm spring when it blooms. And the ultimate, by avoiding premature blooms, the goal is you're going to have better yields of fruit that following spring and summer. As an anti-transparent, it's an excellent practice that whenever you transplant or repot your plants, to even spray the entire plant, and that's the value as a foliar spray. And then for pruned trees and plants, you can see on all of the exposed surfaces, we're coating those as well. Graft unions is another excellent application. And for new and established trees, it's a good practice to start with immediately, and it's also for maintenance as the plants continue to mature to maximize the health, life, and longevity of your plants and maximize on yields of fruit for many years and decades to come. So now we've talked about the whitewash products. The fertilizer, I've been maintaining the plants, basically my figs and all the other fruit trees here in our food forest, by simply feeding them spring, summer, and fall. There's things we'll do in the winter predominantly, and I'll share with you the nutritional foliar sprays, which we'll be using these products for as well. But what's so unique about this product, unlike any other fertilizer on the market, is that many of you should know what NPK is, which stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You can see that it has a very high NPK compared to most organic fertilizers, which means you can use less of it and still gain the same benefits of a lot of the products on the shelf. And then ndsu.edu is magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Together, all of these 6 macronutrients, hence the name 6 macros, gives your plants all of the macronutrients that they need. You've got the 6 macros plus. I got to share with you the derived from on the back. You can see that it's about 7 lines long. And just loaded with a whole bunch of organic ingredients as well as beneficial bacteria and mycorrhizal fungus. And the product can be used over here. It talks about soil directions, as it can be used as a granule on your soil. Over here as a foliar feed, nutritional spray, or as a liquid fertilizer. 1 tablespoon per gallon. You can make over 20 gallons of fertilizer from this 11.8 ounce bag. And then the last application is a supplement to your compost tea. So you can also do that, or you just use it in conjunction with any of your other fertilizers as well. But the point is, you're giving your plants all of the 6 macronutrients, a lot of micronutrients, and also a lot of beneficial mycorrhiza and beneficial fungus as well. This is the super blend. Then there's the premium blend of fertilizer, which has extra calcium in it. But you take a look at the NPK, significantly lower, 244, 1217. And then ingredient wise, it's also a lot more brief, but still significantly more than the majority of the organic fertilizers on the market that typically have 2 to 5 ingredients. You can see that it's got a lot more than that, in addition to 1% of the super blend fertilizer. So the one with the exhaustive list of ingredients, we've used 1% of that. So that goes into our premium blend fertilizers as well. So now we've just talked about the fertilizers, and now let's get to talking about Sportwood. And what I found, and I've just started sharing on Facebook, for those of you that follow me on Facebook, I shared with you something called a Tiger Sport, and one of you questioned, what's a Tiger Sport? And what a Tiger Sport is, as I defined it, is it's basically the same as the Tiger, which let me share with you what we've done here. If you come in a little closer, you can see again, we started with the approach graft. You can still see remnants of this, as it was only less than 2 years ago. You can see this here was the approach graft. All of these we grafted onto the fig we did by way of approach graft, except for one which we did it by way of a cleft graft. But with the approach graft, you can see, you can imagine, we just basically healed these 2 trees together and then severed it from its container, and now it's resting and has healed quite beautifully onto the rootstock. I can still see the line between the grafted tiger fig or the panache fig and the rootstock, which is below my finger. Right here's the line. I'm hoping you can capture that. And then as we go up, you can notice, and I've noticed this about this particular fig variety compared to others, but if you take a look at the wood, you may see a little bit of a zebra pattern. And as it's younger, if we go up a little higher, you can see it more noticeably in the newer wood. You can see a variegated pattern in the wood between colors green and yellow and brown. And maybe if you go up even a little higher up towards the figs, you might notice that variegation even better. But just check out how beautiful these figs are with the patterns and the stripes. It's just so unique. Forget about the flavor. The flavor is supposed to be quite remarkable compared to most varieties of figs. But in addition to having something that's aesthetically, just looking at just the skin, it's such a beautiful fruit to look at. Wonderful addition to the garden. But what has happened here, let's follow the graft again, and let's try to track that sportwood. So it's grafted right here at my finger. Branch goes up in this direction and has created 3 more branches. One going in this direction with these yellowish figs with the green stripes. another branch over here with, again, those yellow and green striped figs. But now let's follow this branch, which is part of the same grafted wood. And you can see that these figs are all green. Check that out. No matter how young you go, they're all green. Not at all like the other two branches of tiger. And as a result, what we found here in the garden is something known as sport wood. And this is a sport, something that's genetically different than the rest of the tree, even though it's still part of the same wood. Something quite remarkable. Let's read a little bit about it, and then we're going to do a couple of taste tests. So let's go and review some of these documents. So there's 3 articles I want to share with you very briefly here. If you take a look over here, the first one I grabbed off of was Wikipedia, and it talks about sport botany. And botany, a sport or budwood, traditionally called a lecis, is part of a plant that shows morphological differences from the rest of the plant. Sports may differ by foliage, shape, or color, or flowers, or branch structure. An example of a bud sport is the nectarine. At least some of the nectarines have been developed as bud sport from peaches. Other common fruits you may be familiar with are the red anjou pears and the pink lemonade, which I'm most familiar with as being part of a eureka lemon. So the pink lemonade, or the variegated lemon, came as a sport off of the eureka lemon, and it's noticeable by the variegated leaves and fruit. The next article I've got here is by gardeningknowhow.com. The title is Plant Sport Mutations. What does it mean when a plant throws a sport? And if you take a look here, it says, what is a sport in the plant world? A sport in the plant world is a genetic mutation that results from a faulty chromosomal replication. The result of the mutations are segments of plants that is distinctly different from the parent plant in both appearances, phenotypes, and genetics, genotypes. A climbing hybrid tea rose are sports of regular shrubs hybrid tea roses. Climbing peace is a sport off of the peace. Flowers are not the only things to be affected. Many varieties of fruits, such as the Grand Gala and the Big Red Gala, are both derived from Gala apple varieties. The nectarine, again, we just read it in Wikipedia, and now this one is sourcing the same thing, gardeningknowhow.com, that a nectarine, or at least some of them, are sports off of a peach. And then some definitions. The term plant sport is the variation of the whole plant, and the bud sport is the variation of only a single branch. The last article I want to share with you is from North Dakota University, or ndsu.edu, and this is titled The Impact of Chimeras and Bud Sports in Horticulture by Andrea Carlson. And here she defines, and we're going to talk about chimera in just a second. I think this is a really remarkable phenomenon. I've yet to see it in my garden or anybody else's garden, but a chimera is where 2 or more distinctly different tissues are overlaying one another, while a sport is a part of a plant that shows unusual or singular deviation from the normal or parent plant, a mutation. Over here, some examples are apples and oranges and grapefruit are among the most interesting, and sports or chimeras to occur that have profound economic impacts on fruit production industry. I put a question mark over figs because I haven't seen anything that talks about fig, chimera, and sports, but maybe you guys can send me some articles if you find any. Some superior branches derived from mutations in the bud or bud sports were isolated and give rise to important cultivars, as the famous case with the Red Delicious apple. And today, there's several seedless cultivars of grapefruits, one of them being the Ruby, is a popular sport variety of grapefruit. And then navel oranges is, it says right there, a bud sport that has provided millions in income to California growers. So you can see that sport wood is something that does happen within the garden, and if you get lucky enough that it ends up creating maybe an unbelievable flavor or a unique characteristic that's desirable by others, you may have won a lottery ticket in the garden. I'm not quite sure if we got something that's superior or inferior, but we're gonna be tasting a little bit of that sport tiger in just a second. But there's one other thing that was also within these articles, which you didn't read together, but in my research it came out, is that sometimes the tree will revert back to the original characteristic of the parent. So imagine I'm the parent tree and I sport out another arm out of my chest, and that arm creates some characteristics such as, let's say I was originally a green fig that now created yellow figs with green stripes. Now we've got the panache tiger fig. But sometimes that panache tiger fig can revert back to that parent plant, and that's maybe exactly what happened with this third branch that's creating only green figs. And there's actually someone that shared that information with me just yesterday. I want to give him credit for that. So let me share that information with you next. So there's someone yesterday on Facebook that shared with me, well, firstly, I shared the results of my, what I call a tiger sport. We now know what the definition of sport is. And he got back to me with his own information. And this is one of the groups I belong to on Facebook. If you take a look over here, you can see Figs and Things is the name of the group. If you like figs, this is a group worth considering joining. And if we take a look at, so here's the post. Of these 3 varieties, which one is your number 1, number 2, and number 3 favorite varieties? I'll share my results of this taste test in 24 hours. I'm gonna be adding the link in just a minute, but we flavored the Cadota. Check out the coloration, the tiger, and then the brown turkey. And the thing that I found interesting was this post that I got. So here's this post by Vinny's Figs, and he writes, it's called a panache revert, and revert sounds like it's reverting back to the original plant. If you take a look here at the image that was shared by Vinny Figs, you can see it's called a panache reverse. And reverse, just as the word implies, means going back. And here you can see is what looks like a very plain looking fig. The inside of it is very dark red, which is characteristic of the panache or tiger fig. The reverse simply reverted back, and I think maybe that is exactly what happened in this case. Probably what happened with my tiger fig is that it reverted back to the original parent plant. If this has happened with any of you, please share in your comments down below. For those of you that are growing tiger figs, if this same phenomenon has happened for you as well. The next phenomenon I want to share with you is something called Chimera. It's something I've learned about at least 20, if not 30 years ago. Is basically where the plant combines genetics from the graft. So let's say, for example, you've got your purple Celeste rootstock with a panache tiger fig on top of it, and the two grafted into one another and created a branch out of the grafted wood, combining the genetics of the purple with the tiger, creating a purple striped tiger fig. That's just something I came up with, but is entirely possible through a process known as Chimera. That's the reason I brought the slime. I thought this would be pretty cool to demonstrate while my daughter's at school. I'm sure she wouldn't give me permission to play with this, but this is something I found on her desk as one of her inventions. But if we take some purple slime, let's say to illustrate the purple fig, and we'll take some of her pink slime. As you may tell, this is my first time playing with slime. But if we basically take our purple fig and our green tiger fig and graft the two together, what will happen is, and the goal would be with Chimera, is that some of the wood between the tiger and the purple fig would blend and create a new branch with the genetics of both. The fruit that's created by these genetics could be a mystery. It could be, like I said, how cool would it be to have a purple fig with white stripes? Something like the tiger fig, but now you can create your own name. And the list just goes on and on. But Chimera is quite amazing. Let's wash my hands, and then we're gonna start the taste test. So when harvesting figs, if they're ripe, they should just pull right off the tree. The other thing too, based on sweetness, is it'll begin to droop as they become ready. This one here could wait about another day, but we're gonna start the taste test now. So here we've got these two, and let me put them in the light. These are the two, as I call them, Tiger Sports, but now we learned that it could be the Panache Reverse, being the original Panache Tiger fig. And we'll put them here on the plate, which we've labeled. And the last one we're going to harvest is the Celestial fig, which is right here. And you can see, compared to these young ones, that this one here is beginning to droop, but it could still wait another day. It would be like twice the sweetness, but let's just check it out together. And let's place that on the plate. And you can see relative to the size of the quarter how large these figs are. Well, now let's split them and check out the insides. So the first thing let's do together, let's cut them in half and compare the insides. Check out how beautiful the Tiger fig is. And now we'll split the Celestial. A lot more pinkish compared to the Tiger's, a lot redder. And now let's taste it. Starting with the Celestial. Absolutely delicious compared to the Tiger. Both remarkably delicious. Celestial, I'll have to say, is ranked a little higher, but again, this is, I'm gonna call it Tiger Sport. It's not the actual Tiger fig. I'm thinking there's got to be maybe a difference in flavor between the two. Still a pretty good one, but Celestial wins this taste test. And now let's check out the taste test I did just a couple of days ago with 3 other varieties of figs. Check this out. You can see that the brown turkey fig is by far the most superior, largest in size. The Tiger Sport, as it doesn't show the variegated stripes, which is typical of the Tiger fig. And then we've got these 2 Cadota figs, and I've got this quarter here to basically show relative to size, the size of these figs. And the other thing too is these figs also, and these grafts are only about a year old. As the graft continues to heal and as the plant continues to mature, we expect the overall size of the figs to continuously get bigger and more flavorful in the years to come. Now let's open these up together. Again, here's the brown turkey fig. If we split this down the middle, so as you can see, as we split it down the middle, you can see how beautiful that coloration is within the brown turkey fig. Compared to, now let's take a look at the Tiger Sport fig. If we split it like so, check out the difference. It's night and day. Check out how much more compact and jelly-like the inside of that is in comparison to the brown turkey. So that would be the Tiger. And now lastly, let's take a look at the Cadota fig. Again, remarkably different. Brown turkey, Tiger, Sport, and Cadota. And obviously the last thing to do is to taste it. Brown turkey. Delicious. Tiger Sport. A lot more intense with flavor. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better. We're still gonna have to do some more taste testing later, but between the two, brown turkey is winning, even though on coloration the Tiger Sport looks amazing. And now let's do the Cadota. Very sweet, just like honey. But in regards to the traditional, excellent, great fig taste, between these 3, my vote goes off to brown turkey. So between the brown tricky fig, the tiger sport fig, and the Cadota fig, just check out how different all of these are, all of which were harvested on the 7-in-1 variety fig that's all standing on just one rootstock. One tree with 7 flavors of figs, and look at how different each one of these are. Of the 3, which one is your favorite? And I'm looking forward to hear your comments. So I hope you enjoyed this educational moment brought to you by Ivory Organics. We've discussed the 3-in-1 plant guard products, we've discussed the whitewash products, we've discussed the Super Blend 6 macros fertilizer and the Premium Blend 6 macros fertilizers. We then learned about Sport Buds as well as Chimera, and we even did a fig taste test. Covered so much, such a short period of time. I hope you found it enjoyable, and if so, please give us a thumbs up, and most importantly, by subscribing down below, you'll be connected to this and all of our other educational gardening videos. And don't forget to hit that push bell notification to make sure that you get notification of all of our new videos, which come out on average every Friday of every week. And I hope you all enjoy growing with Ivory Organics. Happy gardening.